Today we are honoring the new moon in Leo. New moons, dark moons are a time to really pause, to take a pause and reconnect, recalibrate. It's a moment where we get to reflect on whether or not we are moving forward in a direction that we want to be moving, or whether we need to reassess, pivot, rework. Too often in our society of fast-paced productivity, we feel as though we cannot pause. We feel as though pauses are wastes of time. And so what happens is we keep doing and producing and making and building without ever actually tuning in to our divine center, our loving heart, our core, and asking ourselves, is this project still fulfilling us? Does this still hold promise for the future? Does this still bring us the joy that it maybe once brought us, right? Does this still support life, right? And so when we don't tune in and recalibrate, we might continue down destructive paths without even realizing it. We might continue to produce, but now we're producing and it brings us no joy. It brings us no satisfaction. It brings us no fulfillment. And we just still go through the motions. And so these pauses, these sacred pauses, are a time for us to recalibrate and give ourselves permission to let go and start again, right? One of the great lessons that we have forgotten in our modern era is this divine cycle of life, death, and rebirth, right? We tend to only think of life and death. We forget this essential rebirth, right? We forget the starting again. And so these moons, these cycles, these moments of celestial pause is our time to reclaim that cyclical living, to reclaim the power of rebirth, the magic of rebirth, the brilliance of rebirth. We get to start again. We have permission. We have permission to begin again. And with this full or new moon that's landing in the sign of Leo, we are not only encouraged to begin again, but we are encouraged to begin again in ways that relate to how we love ourselves, how we show ourselves love, also how we express that love with the world, right? How we express our loving genius with the world. Leo is all about shining bright. Leo is ruled by the sun, the center, right? That which all orbits, right? And so there's this invitation to claim our place at the center of the orbit, right? To claim our divine right, to shine brightly and let that light attract all that we are meant to have in life, everything that we are meant to have or do, right? That we, just by allowing ourselves to come into synthesis, alignment with our truest essence, that essence will act as a magnet, a gravitational force pulling to us all that is needed, all that we are meant to do and be and create and experience. And so sometimes it can be challenging in our world that tells us that the only way to create is by a lot of like external action. And external action is definitely required for manifestation. But so is this like aligned, beautiful life force energy, right? It's a both and, not either or. And so we are, in this new moon in Leo, invited to remember how honoring that like solar power within us will actually help us to express that more in the world, right? That it, the whole as within, so without, right? So when we do this work inside of ourselves, it naturally starts to be reflected and created in our outer world. The other piece I want to bring up that I feel like is really poignant for this particular moment in celestial time is Venus, the planet of Venus. So Venus is associated with love, with the divine feminine, and she has a very beautiful path across the sky. And on Sunday, she made her move right in between the sun and us. And for many, this is believed to be this kind of other form of new beginning, right? Venus, by many, is seen as the representation of the kind of solar feminine, that outward expression of our inner magic, right? Our inner intuition, our inner genius. And so having these two celestial bodies moving within the sign of Leo almost congruently is really poignant when it comes to like expressing our unique gifts with the world, or at least the invitation call from the universe to share our magic with the world, to share what longs to be shared, to really embody and honor like the magnificence that is our unique being, right? The remembrance that like we are special, we are needed, and also we are deeply understood, right? I think that can be a huge challenge for a lot of us, including myself, to express our unique essence. There is this inner voice inside my head that often is like, no one's going to get you, no one's going to understand this, you're way over here, and everyone's going to think no one's going to get it. And for a long time, that kept me very silent and kept me scared to speak my truth. But the more that I gathered in circle with other people who are on this path to share what's inside us, share what longs to be shared, the more I realized that that is I'm not alone in feeling that. And that is something that was trying to keep me safe, right? Because there are certain times and spaces when it isn't necessarily safe to speak our truth. And we're invited now to cultivate some discernment for when is it safe to express our true self. And in many ways, the universe is trying to tell us now is the time. It is time. We need you. It is safe for you to be you. And I also believe that many of us who decided to be here now are here because it is our time, right? We heard the call. We heard the call to like, that all of our magic was needed. And we were like, yeah, okay, I'm on it. I'll be there. Don't worry. And so I say that to say, like, if you are here, especially here in this circle, like your gifts are they're so delicious. And the rest of the world like longs to taste that, right? And yeah, there is. And I guess as well, like you have the privilege of being able to fill this like you-sized hole in someone's life or in the world or in the marketplace or in wherever you choose to be. And so Leo is really saying like, you get to be powerful, magnificent, magnetic. You get to shine, right? Because you're shining just like the sun will create more life, right? The energy that is emitted from the sun has made this beautiful paradise that we get to live in. And so in that same kind of remembering of as above, so below, right? Like as within, so without. When we shine like that, we get to also create more paradises, more life, more goodness. Yeah. Let me see if there's anything else that wants to be said about that. So the other thing that I think wants to be named is really like this reclamation of like the divine feminine, right? And so we don't necessarily have to think of it as feminine in like the way our dictionary might describe feminine. We can think of it just as like the kind of like yin to the yang, right? Like the polarity that balances the like hyperactive growth, right? It's like the new moon or winter or the energy of like the deep pause. That's part of the medicine of the sacred feminine. And And so we are really being called back in to that wisdom that has been neglected, forgotten, degraded over lifetimes, right? And so we are being invited as individuals and collectively to really remember the power of the both, right? That like one of the like most, I don't know, magnificent things is that kind of like balance, right? The like way that we get to dance between polarities and the way that we get to know what is because of those polarities, right? Like I understand what hot is partially because I know what cold is, right? I understand what soft is partially because I know what hard is. And so like we get to know more, and that is exciting. That gets to be exciting.